sometimes the smallest idea can turn into the biggest, most disruptive idea.
This is the Safari. The Safari is a tour around the consumer, brand, and retailing industry. And we have the great privilege here at my company, Traub, to really be exposed to many of the great minds of the industry who are forming and shaping the future of many different parts of the consumer, brand, and retail world. And I felt it was quite interesting for us to be able to not only learn from all of those people as we do every day, but memorialize it into a podcast, which could then be shared with many of our friends and clients and you, obviously, the listener.
Hi, it's Kate Doerge, and today I am thrilled to be speaking to Jennifer Foyle, President and Executive Creative Director of American Eagle and Aerie brands. Jennifer is such a wealth of both inspiration and information. We cover a lot, but specifically focus on the power of the three brands under the American Eagle Outfitters umbrella. Jen talks about leading with purpose and continuing to evolve in today's ever-changing retail landscape, but always staying true to each brand's DNA. I hope you enjoyed the podcast as much as I enjoyed speaking with Jen. Hi, welcome to the Safari. Today, I am so thrilled and honored to have my dear friend, Jennifer Foyle, President and Executive Creative Director of American Eagle and Aerie. Jen, welcome to the Safari.
Thank you. Thank you, Kate. So nice to see you. I loved our earlier chat. It's just always inspiring being around you. You make everyone want to do better. So, and I'm really happy to be here.
Well, listen, that is an incredible honor, especially coming from you, because I feel the same way about you. And you are such an inspiration. So thank you for taking the time to be here. I know you have a very busy schedule and a lot on your plate. And because you and I have a personal relationship outside of the retail industry, and I see you in your tennis whites in the summertime, I want to have our listeners hear your story. You are such an inspiration. And of course, not only what you've done in the last 14 years, but truly, you know, your background and your career. So I guess, can we start at the beginning and tell us a little bit about your career trajectory and how you came to be where you are now? Yes.
I'll go back to my first job, actually. And Kate, you'll appreciate this. I graduated from college and I was still on Fisher's Island with a dear friend who had just graduated from college, and it was October and, summer jobs out on the island. And my mom was like, okay, we need to take life a little bit more seriously, Jen. So I literally read the New York Times, and Bloomingdale's had Christmas executive positions, walk-in only. So I said, well, that sounds like a heck of a job, a Christmas executive.
What is a Christmas executive?
Exactly. Basically, I stocked shelves. It sounded a lot more, but if you survived the Christmas season, you and did well, you were able to enter the training program, which back then was one of the last of its kind. It was an incredible training program. Marvin Traub, still the chairman at Bloomingdale's when I started. He did amazing things. I learned a lot from him in my brief encounter with him, but what a man. And so I made it to the training program, and 10 and a half years at Bloomingdale's, I really learned the ropes. And I did everything from floor management to back of the house, buying, associate buying, everything, jack of all trades, and really gave me an incredible grasp. And I think an advantage, actually, because it's so different now. And then let me just think. So 10 and a half years, I had honestly started some of my own departments, private label departments at Bloomingdale's, but I also launched Lauren by Ralph Lauren, very successful launch for that company. And I there was an opening at the Gap. Somebody called me, and it was to run denim at the Gap. And I just thought, wow, out in San Francisco back then, khakis were swinging.
Right.
So it was it was really Mickey at its best. So, an over 10 billion, $14 billion company by the time I left, but he knew how it was done, specialty retail. And of course I jumped on that job. It was an amazing opportunity. I had an interview with Mickey. I did an Eartha Kitt impression for him. And
Stop. That's amazing. And he went for it, hook, line, and sinker.
He loved it. He loved it. I think that's how I landed the job. So I moved to San Francisco, worked at the Gap for 5 years. Incredible. It was an incredible journey there. I learned really, vertical retailing. And then lo and behold, Mickey left the Gap, and I really wanted to move back east. I missed my parents. My dad was ill, and it was time to get back home. And I got a call from Mickey one day, and he just said, Jen, how do you feel about J. Crew? And another wow company. First of all, to see Mickey in his realm of creating a brand again, and rebuilding a brand. So back to New York, it was, I was the chief merchant at J. Crew. And that was an amazing experience because Mickey is a brand builder. And I really learned the fundamentals of that. And we went public in that 5-year tenure. And now I'm here, and this is a completely different journey. And I can share a little bit more detail because this has honestly been one of the most unbelievable journeys, birthing Aerie and Offline, those brands, but now overseeing American Eagle, a more tenured brand, and the variability in that. And it's a little bit different, right? Each brand is a tiny bit different. And it's been a great journey for me.
It's incredible. I mean, Jen, what you have done, and it was 2010, correct? That you joined.
Yes.
So what brought you over to American Eagle Outfitters? And I want to hear about, the evolution of these brands, because truly how you've turned Aerie around and how you've launched these sub brands has been, as I said in the beginning, you are such an inspiration, and you're a badass female exec in the retail world, which, just as you're talking about your background, here you were with legends, right? Marvin, Mickey, and here you're doing it and have done it. But what brought you to American Eagle? What sort of inspired you to take that leap over?
Yeah. So I had a brief stint between J. Crew and American Eagle, and I was at Calypso actually. And honestly, that was during 2008. So the crash. And I, for some reason, took this opportunity. I definitely learned a lot running a small operation, but it sort of gave me that general management ability. I oversaw everything. So I was essentially the CEO of a small business, but it really taught me the ins and outs, every detail, learning the P&L, learning, I reported to a PE firm. So it was a great experience on a smaller scale. But quite frankly, this job opportunity came, Aerie was, Roger Markfield called me, said, I need you to meet with me. I want to talk to you about this small brand we're incubating. Let's get to it, Jen. And when I learned it was intimate apparel, I said, wow. I said, this is a category that I think we could really disrupt, because as we know, there's one big behemoth brand, specialty brand out there. We know the player. And I just thought, when I thought having a little girl, I wanted her first experience buying her first bra to be a lot better than the oversexed, overmodel, supermodel days. I thought there was something very unique we could do with Aerie. And look, I'm not going to deny, I thought it would be an easy journey. And we had a lot of work to do to rationalize the business before we really set forth, getting a new designer who really understood the components of intimate apparel, and then building that vision, of course. But it was really that breakthrough in 2014 when I felt everything was working, right? We had a new store design. We had the best product. We were starting to get the product out there. We were reaching new customers. Like, we were doing everything right, but something still just wasn't right. And I think we were trying too hard, and not looking for that white space. And it was this one creative moment where my head of creative at the time, and he still works with me now, he's helping his companies with American Eagle, said, Jen, what do you think about the store set? So we had a simulated store set with all the marketing, right?
Yeah.
Beautiful marketing everywhere. And I said, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. Everything looks fantastic. The clothes, the marketing in the store. And he said, well, what do you think about this? The models aren't airbrushed. And I said, what are you talking about?
Because you didn't even consider airbrushing.
No, I didn't even. It was something that never really occurred to me. And I think it's a good lesson in business, right? Sometimes the smallest idea can turn into the biggest, most disruptive idea. And this one was. We took that away and the team just really incubated that one sentence and said, wow, we can market this concept. Yeah. Why would you airbrush a professional model? That's my biggest question mark. Right. And well, now look at where we are today. I mean, that turned into over 36 quarters of high double-digit comps. The growth I've never seen anything like it in my entire career. We have a community. I mean, it just took hold. It's exactly what you were talking about Penny's flight.
Yeah. It's just a movement and people.
It's a movement. Yeah. And I really think Aerie paved the way to do things differently. Katie, on the boat one day, on the Fisher's Island ferry boat, a mother came over to me and said, thank you for Aerie.
Oh,
thank you.
Yeah.
She said, my daughter is a diabetic and has, the patch, and you give her that confidence to go to the beach and wear her patch proudly. And it's moments like that just, I realized that this wasn't only a job and an occupation for me. Yeah. It was a community and an incredible, passionate employee base that we're all behind. And we've just taken it to so many new places.
It's so awesome, Jenna. And you've got to be so proud of that. And your team must be so proud because taking a small idea and creating something so big, as we talked about, the impact that has and the purpose that brings to have people coming up to you and engaging in that way. Because it's not right. It's not anything you plan. I mean, no marketer is going to say, we're going to launch this and it's going to be the biggest success. And this is what's going to take the business, into the billions. But that is really the catalyst for the growth. So I guess my question was, where do you think that success came from? Because it was so organic and because your customers appreciated this so much, but was it because of the, having it go viral on social media? Was it the in-store engagement? Where did you see that success in 2014? And I guess, how's that continued to evolve?
Yeah. I mean, back then we were heavily penetrated on direct. So, that our spend in different ways. But I will say, I think it came first behind the four walls, of our building, our corporate structure and the stores, of course, the stores. But I would say that it was just that army of passionate employees that were so excited to get the momentum. We had been at it. Aerie had, before I started, it was still a brand, but it just never could take flight. And there was a lot of tenure building that brand. And when this unlock started to happen and that immediate response in sales, it just became that snowball effect. And then we realized that we could take it to new places. We could, whether it's activations or new stores really helped us too, right? Get the brand awareness out there. But really, it was the community. It was a community who told our story. And really, we were some of the first to really use user-generated content.
Right.
Again, not filtering our customer, putting the customer in our windows, letting the customer be our brand ambassadors. We really started this movement. And I think, we own it now. And in fact, just so you know, Kate, we're talking about what's next. It feels like it's our time again because there's a lot of players out there, and that's fine. I'm glad. I feel proud that, Aerie set the tone, and now there's so much more we can do.
That's so incredible. And in terms of, brick and mortar and getting the four walls, where are you in terms of how many stores and the growth and what does that look like for the future?
So for Aerie, we're opening about 30 to 40 stores still a year. We're a little bit over 400, but offline. So now this is another superpower for the Aerie brand. It was during COVID. And by the way, I love disruption. It does make you think differently. This was the COVID, the pandemic that, wow, how are we going to do business again? What are we? And we were thinking about, well, during this time, why not try new things? You have your right of entry, right? Like, why not try new things?
Yeah.
We wouldn't have outdoor eating if restaurants didn't, move tables outside.
Yeah.
And now look at New York City. I mean,
Yeah.
so Offline is a brand inside of Aerie. It's an offshoot of Aerie. But we had this legging business, and it was, roughly $100 million business. And it was just called our Aerie legging business. And we came up with the idea to launch on offline as an offshoot of Aerie during the pandemic. So we worked for a year, we worked a little, under a year, I guess. And we launched the brand during the pandemic. And I have never seen a brand move so fast. Again, it's still part of Aerie, but we are opening freestanding stores and side-by-side stores, and they are doing very nicely. It's growing actually at a faster pace than Aerie did. So again, we struck gold with, again, having a core competency business. So like in Aerie, our intimates business is our core. In offline, it's our leggings. They're at the right price. And Kate, if you haven't tried them, get the Aerie Real Me legging. They are phenomenal. I mean, they are so comfortable and they look great on, but it is.
And even post-COVID, you're still seeing the growth in the leggings.
We actually still have, in fact, we gained market share. We've gained 3 points within the past roughly year, which is pretty big. We're like ranked number 3 or 4 at this stage in the legging business, which if you think of the competition, we're talking the Targets of the world and Lulu. Breakthrough is pretty amazing, but there's still more work to do and we're never done.
And will you continue to build out other categories within leggings, or will you solely focus on leggings?
Other categories, fashion ideas.
Yeah.
When you think about it, you mentioned me out in my tennis whites, but I love to wear that skirt all day because I'm comfortable and it looks nice, I think it's the same philosophy. I think those categories warrant more fashion. In fact, I think we need to think more fashionable for that type of business, because I think if you solely rely on black basic leggings, which I will say does the majority of the business, we're going to be stuck. So we have to innovate and think of new things. And because of offline, it gives us more room to experiment with Aerie as well and think about new ideas, to build out that brand as well. And we're working on a lot of new thoughts for the business. And I think some exciting things you're going to see for back to school.
And I was going to ask that, Jen, because, here you are with this portfolio of brands, right? And how you keep track of them and how, I'm sure you're getting inspiration from each brand, right? And sort of there's this crossover, but I want to talk about, because, American Eagle Outfitters has evolved so much into a true lifestyle brand, I want to talk about what sets you apart and sort of, again, those key factors that have contributed to all these brands' growth, because you overseeing American Eagle, Aerie, these sub brands, it's a lot. So I want to talk about the growth for each, if you can, and then we're going to dive into a little bit more.
Sure. I actually spoke about this at an analyst investor conference last week. What separates, specialty retail, by the way, is doing nicely right now. But what makes American Eagle unique, the umbrella of American Eagle, AEO Inc., is, these 3 powerful brands. I would say, like, if you look at AE, the mature brand pays a lot of the rent for, makes a lot of money for our company. But we did, I've only been at American Eagle for 3 years now. And we're working on, really rebuilding that brand, and we're starting to see the light. I'm really excited. It takes time to turn a brand around. We had to rationalize and really rework the DNA and bring it back to actually the heritage.
Yeah.
I think at one point, the company might have, gotten off path a little bit there. And, we've been working to really rebuild that brand. And I can talk about that. But going back to your question, if I think about the power of each brand, it's what I, nodded to on the Aerie offline discussion, the power of denim in American Eagle being the number 1 denim brand in the country for women's and number 2 in men's, number 1 in our age bracket for both genders is powerful. we're second in the Piper Jaffray to Nike, this brand, as far as mind share. So think about the potential. That really excites me.
Yeah.
But it has this core business, Kate, of denim. Offline, as I mentioned, powerful legging business and a core staple business that will always be at the heart of what we do, and Aerie with intimates. What that does is it helps us build stability over time, because those businesses during either fast fashion time periods or not, like, they know still to come to us, right? That we will have what they're looking for. And again, we will certainly pulse on fashion ideas, trend ideas at the right time, leaning into other categories, but the soul of our categories. And I like to say we show up a little different. Like, I think of our stores as, a Broadway show, right? Like, and kids, our age group, the 20-year-old roughly wants to be entertained. They want to go to a store. They like going to a store. And we want that store experience to be incredible. So using the digital halo to get them to stores is something very important. But again, I think that's a competitive edge, the way we show up versus, others. We take care of our customer, and we mean business when it comes to our store base.
But you're approaching it in different ways for each of these different brands, because I think, like kids, right? You love them equally, but each one is different. So the strategy for each of these brands is different, including the engagement in store, I would think, because you've got different demographics here.
Yes, for sure. Absolutely. In fact, I just got off a call. We were talking about marketing. In Aerie, we're still a young brand. There's only 50% awareness still. And this brand is going to reach 1.7 billion in no time. And when we think about that, only 50% awareness in our country. AE is more like 80, right? There's work to do on how we spend our dime, how we spend our money in Aerie, how we lean into digital still a little bit heavier than we do on the AE side. AE has a bigger store base and a larger tentacles, right, out there to touch more customers. But again, and a little bit more brand awareness, but the tactics are different. AE, we have, as I mentioned, we're rebuilding our DNA. We have exciting things happening for back to school. We're relaunching our platform for American Eagle. And I love what I saw. There'll be a lot of tactics out there, a lot of upper funnel actually. But we have to. Each brand's different. Like, we spend a little bit more in Aerie because we have to get those new customers. Yeah. Interestingly enough, though, we've been able to leverage our customer base too, because we share a domain on the site, so you can get all of our brands in one place. You get a view to them. You can share a basket if you want. So again, that was a great tactic too. How do we get the AE women's customer to go to Aerie and vice? Because Aerie has swim, American Eagle does not. So I think that's actually an interesting strategic way to drive your business and lean on, by the way, we're our own best brands, right? We have 22 million customers. So we're the best collab in town, I think. That's what I actually tell my team.
The best collab in town. I love it. But when did you introduce that, John? Because it seems like an obvious thing, but it's a game changer, I would think. But when did you introduce this sort of one foundation, one market, one introduction of these brands?
Yeah, I think it was it definitely was. When we were growing Aerie, we had some side-by-side stores. And when I started to learn from the customers that we were acquiring through AE, it was really that. Honestly, it was simple as that. We learned, oh, wow, well, what about the power on the web? What if we double exposed our leggings on AE? What if we sent them to Aerie to buy swim? Right. What if we, so it was a lot of that trial and error, a lot of testing. But we learned, they can complete their outfit from head to toe, no pun intended either, with the foundations in Aerie and then their jeans in AE. Why not? And it also, and I say this to the street a lot, it gives me a competitive advantage leading these brands, because let's just pretend, this category is not trending, right? Yeah. But in this brand, it really is. Well, guess what? I get to double down. With a customer base that is primarily shared. So it really helps me manage the business as well. Where trends are shifting.
Yep. And you've got these three bands to manage. So at any one time, trends are going to be shifting. One's going to be up, one's going to be down. But again, I go back to I'm so inspired by you because you are able to manage it all and you have this ability to have an incredibly loyal team because you are a hard worker. And I love the interviews when you talk about how you're in the office every day and you are walking the halls and you're finding inspiration from your team. But I want to hear a little bit more about where you do find your inspiration and, how you and your team bring these ideas to life for the different brands. And if you can give an example or a recent example, I'd love to hear it.
Okay, I have one today. I'm
going
to confess here. I took Maggie to her dentist, which is in Grand Central Station. And I was sitting outside with my coffee and I was like, I just don't remember how many adults are walking around in backpacks in my career of fashion.
Oh my gosh. So
women
true.
and men. Now I'm in the commuter area but still, I was just fascinated by backpacks. So I guess, that would be an example of,
Just seeing it in
always
real time.
exactly. I was like, 1 out of 10 in a couple different samplings I did not have a backpack. I was just like, I don't carry a backpack, but I found it fascinating.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's looking outside of your four walls, but it's also, wow, we really are always brainstorming about what's next. We're always, we shop, we go around the world to shop and collect what I call artifacts or ideas. And so that's really important. But we also do sessions, and embracing the team, no matter what level they're at, is really, I always find a winning recipe. I'll give you another example. And this was great. This was Aerie at its early days. We had a kickoff, a big, a back to school kickoff, team building kickoff. And they did an exercise and one team came back with, and I said, anything goes, do anything. Let's take this brand to, new heights. And one group came up with, why don't we celebrate every holiday? Why does it have to be this holiday or that holiday? There's funny holidays out there. There's National Ice Cream Day. Again, Aerie did this, was the first brand to do this, where we started showing up on social. Today's National Ice Cream Day. Like, here's, go to Ben and Jerry, whatever it may be. And we really started, and we came up with the most craziest holidays, and some we invented our own. And that really took off, and a lot of industry, many in the industry followed that. So that was another fun idea. But look, we look around, we shop, we go to campuses, we do whatever it takes. And usually I have an idea about 3 a.m. that I send text to my team, which I'm now learning they don't love that.
Yeah, exactly. Wait, I want to know, what holiday did you come up with? Because by the way, I am a celebrator of all holidays, so I love the national.
Oh gosh, what was it? It was like National Freckle Day or something. It was something crazy. We had a model at the time who was freckly, I believe,
Yeah.
and it was just, we just said anything goes. And, and then of course we used our platform, Aerie Real, to really encourage everyone to celebrate who they are and share their holiday and share their, what I mean? What makes their day. So it took, again, another example of how you can really build your brand, doing things outside of the, of the black box.
And I love that, because I was just going to speak to the fact that, you have become known as this brand for inclusivity, obviously with your campaign. So that really ties so nicely into this. But, again, talk about the challenges and the triumphs you have faced with creating products and campaigns, that are speaking to a diverse audience. Because clearly, it was such a success with Aerie, but there had to have been some challenges.
You're absolutely right. There are, because when you say you are the most inclusive brand out there, it's hard to include everyone, right? There's so many people. There's such diversity out there. There's so much work to do, around just this idea that it's never enough, honestly, Kate. And that's probably the biggest thing, right? Because I still have to manage our gross margin. We have to manage our, inventories. I could let this go and we could be, an Aerie department store overnight because we have such demand for our products. that they want more from us, and we're doing things. We're doing adaptive. We have a lot of products that acknowledge, things that outside what we think are the norm of diversity, right? Or what we normally where we go to. And there's so much more, and it's never enough. I think that's the biggest thing I would say is like, it's almost like you can't keep up. And at some point you have to pull in the reins and say, look, this is what we're going to tackle today.
Yeah.
Or what makes sense for our demographic as well. Okay. Making sure that we're sticking to our DNA. And often, because of the 50% awareness that I mentioned, many customers don't even realize how we started the brand, which is simply celebrating our models and not airbrushing them.
Yeah.
So also going back and reminding new customers about our platform. I think that's another great reminder of building new businesses, how you think about it as you grow, to make sure that you're always going back to those roots.
Yeah.
And
Your core identity for sure.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that is so key. But what I love, listening to you speak, Jen, it's you've got the right side and left side of the brain. And obviously here at Traub, we think a lot about that and running businesses in that same way, where you are so creative. So you're waking up at 3:00 at night, thinking about all these line extensions and things to do and activations, but you also have a business to run. And you have to pull in the reins at times. And again, just credit to you, because I think you've done such a great job about balancing sort of what's the latest trend, what's coming up, but keeping it true to the business.
It is an art and a science, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, I love the science part because I feel like that's right. That's my report card every day, right?
Yeah.
How are we doing?
Yeah.
I love getting the sales. I love when I call an item and then, my team's like, Jen, it is blowing out, right?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
and it's such a good feeling, but also, a better feeling is, the flow through on the P&L and, the investment community, seeing that and rewarding us for that. I feel ultimately obligated to the teams for that winning solution. And there's always work to do in a portfolio, and we're always rationalizing or thinking differently. And I think that is probably the hardest thing to do. Is again, it's almost what I was saying in Aerie, like we could do everything. We could have every category. We could have every size in the world. But I also have to, manage the business, and it's the same. It's that same thought process.
Yeah. And I was going to ask about that because obviously that's the challenge, right? It's the balance. But, certainly you faced a lot of challenges. And, I guess a question would be, what's one of the biggest challenges you faced? I mean, put COVID aside because you crushed COVID clearly with, the leggings and what you've been able to do. But, has there been some challenges that have been really outstanding for you? And what did you do to overcome them?
I mean, Aerie was really probably, I would say, near and dear to my heart, one of my biggest accomplishments,
Yeah.
but it takes the whole team. And that was a lesson in leadership too. When I went to Calypso, I learned that the hard way, and it was only like 54 people at headquarters, but I thought you just wiggle your nose, right? And everyone rallies around you.
Yeah.
I learned that the hard way. And it was a great learning for me. And then when I went to Aerie, I had that tucked inside, in my pocket. And it was getting the team to understand your vision to get us to the final journey, right?
Mm.
And that's not always easy because everyone has a different picture and we all see things differently. And getting an entire team to see that, and now they can finish my sentences in Aerie. I would say similar kind of experience going into AE. I actually thought AE was so, mature, had such great brand awareness, a huge customer file. Like I thought that would be sort of a wiggle your nose. Like I'm going to go in, we're just going to better the product, get some better marketing. This is going to be so easy. Not really. I had a lot of legacy there that are still there, tenured people, ways of doing business. And change, building a change environment where they can trust you as the leader takes some time and some wins, right? So I always look for that first win with the team. Like, where am I going to get them to trust me, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. And I think that's one of my recipes for success.
It is. And that's where I talk about, again, you build the trust because you demonstrate the hard work you put in and the success you get out of it. And then that trust builds this incredibly loyal team that you have on all these brands. Couple quick questions, and then I know you've got a very busy schedule, but you've done so much in this amount of time that you've been with the brands, but what does the future look like for AE and Aerie, and what are you most excited about?
Well, I've been saying it live, but I see a $10 billion brand out there. I mean, I've been in brands, the Gap, that have reached those heights. And, the power of these three brands. Plus, we also have some smaller brands tucked inside of American Eagle. We have Premier Denim AE77 that's turning into much more than denim. And then we have Men's 24/7, which is active. Now that sort of is more of a brand within a brand, because especially on the men's side, because they're just sort of dressing that way. I'm sure you see your sons, they're pull on athletic shorts. It's just what they want to wear. But I see this on the horizon. I see growth for American Eagle. I see a clear path there. And still there's growth for Aerie and offline. So look, there's a lot to do, and we're never going to stop. And we're trying new things. And what I tell the teams every day is, look, we have to do something different. Keep on looking for the white space, what people aren't doing versus what people are doing. So we're really sort of formulating how we're going to show up and building like new concepts of separating ourselves, sort of. How do we stand out, right? How do we show up in a unique way to our customers and excite new customers?
Yeah, and I think that has been the key for you all. And I guess one other question I would have is, in terms of, and not giving away any secrets that you have with the brand, but are there any emerging trends or technologies that have really excited you, and ways that you're engaging the customer that you're just, it's going to continue to improve, but anything in particular that's...
Well, I'm not going to deny AI does scare me. But there's so much to leverage there too, Kate, but it's again, this is how you build, like, how do we embrace AI? Because it's inevitable, right? We're all, and we're using some AI, but how do we want to show up with it that makes sense for our brands? I think that's a lot of work to do there. There's a lot to do when we think of that scary topic of AI, right? Like, if you think of Aerie, would we ever use AI generated models? Well, that doesn't fit into that's not Aerie real, right? Like, how does AI fit into the Aerie brand? How does AI fit into the American Eagle brand? Like, and how do we leverage AI to build customer awareness, brand awareness? How do we do that? So I think, that's just one thought bubble for a moment, that I think is an interesting one.
It is. And do you use it for design? Do you use it? I mean, there's so many possibilities.
There's a lot of possibilities, but I would just say that's one of the closest near and things top of mind that we are thinking about as a company.
Yeah, amazing. Well, again, I know your time is limited here, and I could talk to you all day long, because you are an incredible wealth of information and inspiration, and just truly a role model to me and so many out there. What I want to ask you, last question, is, again, here you've had such a career, and you continue to just crush all barriers and grow businesses. But someone entering into the fashion and retail industry, what's the best advice you received, or the best advice you would give?
The best advice I received was for Marion Goodman when I was hired at Bloomingdale's, believe it or not. She told me, your office will always be on your feet. And she's like, whether you're on the floor or you're in the office, you need to be thinking on your toes. And I thought that was really good.
I love that. That's so great.
What advice would I give? I'm going through this, I'm beginning the college process.
Yes.
Right. And how do you make your child stand out on a college application? That's the big question. And I would say, limit your journey to one thing you do best, right? Trying to do everything, you're never going to win, right? But if you can tell your character in an essay, if you can talk about your character in an essay, in a one-liner, I think you can shine, right?
Yeah.
That's how I feel about your first job, whether it's retail or anything, like, how do you take your best attribute and just let it shine? I think you'll win. And that's sort of with me. I was that person. I mean,
Well, I was just going to ask that. Then I'm going to turn it on to you, Maggie. I'm going to tell Maggie she's got to turn the camera onto you and be like, okay, Mom, what would you say? What would you say? There's so many amazing things about it. You, Jen, how do you boil it down? What's your
boil it down to creative hard work with tons of energy.
that? Perfect. Perfect. You just nailed it.
I have a lot of energy.
You do. And that's why I love you, because I'm right there.
I should be a better tennis player, though. I should be a better tennis player.
No, stop. You've got the look. You've got it. You do. And I am so grateful for your time, Jen. Truly, you are an inspiration. And for all of our listeners, I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. Jennifer Foyle and how she's taking this business to the billions. I'm proud to know you and honored to know you. So thank you for being with us on the safari.
Thank you so much.
If you want to learn a little bit more about Traub, you can go to traub.io, where you'll learn a lot about everything that we do. If you're enjoying the safari, please do share it with your friends and colleagues within the industry. And please also don't forget to subscribe and like it. Until next time.